Hello, everyone. Welcome to Be Sane. I feel almost very emotional saying that. Obviously, this is my very first episode, and I wanted to just use this episode to really introduce this podcast and what the podcast is about, why I'm doing this podcast, why now, and amongst other things, right? And for if you're seeing my face for the first time, my name is Kamsi. I'm happy to have you here. And to be seen as this space, a storytelling space where stories become mirrors and where conversation becomes a way home to yourself. And I'm talking about not just my story, but the stories of other people who I admire, who I've learned something from, who maybe I follow and, admire from afar, or these are even friends, right? And why am I even doing this, right? Because, you know, honestly, if you know me, you know that this is something that is a culmination of so much of who I am, right? I call myself my Instagram bio, you see, a woman of words. And it is something that is very central to who I am and who I've always been from when I was, a child. I remember being like maybe 6, 7 years old, and I had this talk show with my brother. I don't know if you can even remember this. My younger brother called The Body Show, and we'll literally go outside the balcony. Well, this was all my idea, anyways. But we'll go outside the balcony and literally just be shouting at the top of our lungs to anybody who was willing to hear us. This is us as children. And I remember thinking every day, like, oh my gosh, like someone is waiting to hear from me. They're waiting after work every day, after school every day to hear from me. And I've always, always, always said that words have been a vehicle for me finding myself, right? It has been a vehicle for me discovering who I am, right? I've always been someone who was infatuated, so to speak, with words. And whether that is through books, whether it's even just through people sharing their own words in like blogs at some point, it could be like even on Instagram, it could be in videos, it could be in poetry, it can be whatever, right? And it's just the way I've always seen the world. And it makes sense for me to have a podcast, but at the same time, I wrestled with this because I felt like we are in an age where everybody and their mama has got a podcast. And I just felt like, been there, done that. Well, not me, but like everyone has been there, done that. Everyone seems to have a podcast. Why this? And for a long time, I wrestled with this stirring in my mind and this stirring in my spirit that I was supposed to start this because I felt like, what contribution does my voice have to already existing podcasts and the already existing podcast ecosystem? Like, what am I going to do that has never been done before? And it's funny because I post, these videos on my Instagram every now and then, sometimes weekly. And I remember one of the videos I shared recently actually was one of the things that was the answer to my questioning about this, right? And I said that, you think that you shouldn't do something because other people have done it before. However, you haven't done it before. So imagine if everybody, and let's call it all the good parents in the world, they just thought like, I'm not going to have kids because everyone already has kids. Why should I bother having kids? I mean, everyone else already has done theirs, but you haven't had your own kids. And if there's something within you that is steering you towards doing something, that means that particular thing wants to be birthed through you, and it's supposed to be birthed through you, especially when it just doesn't go. And that was what this podcast was for me. Like, it was just something that had been, in my mind, right? Just nagging at my mind. But I just always felt like, I don't have time, it's not right. I'm not the one, other people already have podcasts that would probably be, better than my podcast. And it's just very weird. But I went on this continuous wallow of just not feeling like it was really right. But it kept on coming. It kept on coming. It never stopped, right? And I think sometime at the beginning of last year, I remember God speaking to me and basically just telling me, like, start posting videos on Instagram, right? And this is not the first time he has spoken to me about sharing my voice, but if I'm being very honest with you, I have ignored that voice before. And maybe like if he says post videos, I'll be like, oh, well, videos. I mean, he doesn't necessarily mean videos. He just videos is a nice to have. But I mean, if I share captions with text, that counts. I mean, it's part of sharing. And I wouldn't necessarily say that I was being disobedient, but I was just so afraid of putting myself out there. And so you might probably be wondering, like, how did I go from that girl who was basically screaming at the top of her lungs in her backyard or in her balcony in her house when she was 6, 7 years old, and wanting to just always share. And just like how people, like an artist, like for them it's like maybe painting or drawing, like words were always my form of expression, whether it's through writing, whether it's through talking, whether it's through sharing. At some point I used to do spoken word poetry, and I wouldn't even say that I'm the best at any of these things. However, it's something that I've always, 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 always had at the core of who I am, right? And when I started having these nudges to start this podcast, it was like almost like a reclaiming of my voice and a reclaiming of who I know myself to be, but I'd run away from, you know, underneath the guise of you're a career woman right now. You are, you don't have time for this, under the guise of, that season has passed. But it was so clear to me that this was what I was supposed to do now. And something about when God is trying to speak to you. It starts out almost like with a whisper, at least from my own personal experience. It starts out from like a whisper until it becomes almost like a scream. And not necessarily that it is a scream in the literal sense, but then it's like this nagging thought that just wouldn't go away. Start this podcast, start this podcast, start this podcast. And so sometime like at the beginning of 2024, around January 2024 actually, and I write everything down, like my notes, so I have like all of these dates and everything. I felt like this nudge to start posting on Instagram, like start sharing on Instagram. In fact, the Holy Spirit told me, start sharing on Instagram. And start sharing videos on Instagram. And when I tell you that, I was just like, oh, no, 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 no. And it's funny because like with what I do, even with my career, there are moments that call for visibility. For example, I, host events, in a lot of ways, I'm in rooms where I'm a leader, I speak, all of these different things, right? But at the same time, I do a lot of behind the scenes things, or at the time I did a lot of behind the scenes things. And so having to put myself in front of the camera and make videos and share and put myself out there and try to be vulnerable and share experiences felt like, what feels worse than scraping your skin with nails? Like, it just felt like this, I just felt so uncomfortable. It was as though I had forgotten how to be seen. I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be perceived, and if I can trace it back, I feel like different things along the line has, kind of took away that confidence that I had in my voice. And it's weird because I would not say that I became someone that was not confident, because if you even knew me then, you wouldn't think that of me. But when everyone thinks that you're confident, but you yourself, that who you are and what you are doing there's a cognitive dissonance there. It's not in alignment. You know that there's so much more that you can be doing and sharing, but you're not allowing yourself to really, really fully live out your own light, right? I knew that deep. I knew that as well as I knew my name, that there was so much more to me that I was holding back. And the Holy Spirit, God, was calling me towards deeper waters. He was calling me to share. He was calling me to allow myself to be seen, and not just for myself, but also for other people. And, it's funny because when this whole thing happened, like initially I couldn't get past the fact that I don't want to be seen. I don't want to put myself out there. I don't even care. I don't want to be famous. I don't want to be whatever it is. And it's not even like I'm famous right now, or I'm even trying to be famous, or I even think that I'm going to be famous. But I just felt like I didn't want to put myself out there. I didn't want to put myself in front of people to be judged, to even have opinions of me. Like, I'm fine with what I'm doing, living my life. I'm happy. I'm actually happy. So why do I need to do all of that? But then I started learning that it was not just about me. It was not just for me. Because even to the points that I had gotten in my life, the fact that I got there, it wasn't just because of me. There are different people within my story and within my journey that they saw something in me that, and they said it, and it called out something within me that made me believe in myself more, made me believe in what was possible for me, made me believe in my own strength, in my own abilities, right? And I just felt like I knew that I needed to create that space for other people to come into their own realization of their own potential by also seeing not just my story, but the story of other people. And, I do this also through my work. It's not something that I would say that, this will be the first time that I'm trying to create space for this. Like I have, for those that know, I'm the CEO of Limitless Club. We have Limitless Club, everything about Limitless Club, it's really just about creating space for young people to find themselves, to find meaning, to find belonging within community. And it's something I'm deeply passionate about, right? And so I was building those kind of spaces, and even through our events, the roundtable, I was building those kind of spaces because I believed it was necessary to push young people and other young people like myself to see themselves and to see their own potential and the light that they carry. And yet, I was preventing myself from fully living out that light. And I thought, Kamsi, you cannot live a double life. You can't call people to do something that you yourself are not fully doing, right? You also need to allow your own lights to shine. And for one person, it might not necessarily be starting a podcast. It might not necessarily be. And I don't even think this podcast is the end all be all, but it's part of this journey that I'm on of continuing to just put myself out there, share my voice, in the hopes that in my sharing my story, in the hopes that, in inviting other people to share their own stories, you are also coming into your own realization of who you are, of the light that you carry, of your own potential, of your own beauty, of your own promise and potential, And I'm not just saying these as words, but it's literally, if you ask me, what do I feel in this world is one of my assignments, that is it. I am supposed to be that person who allows their light to also call out the light in other people. And I've seen myself do that in friendships, in my marriage. I've seen myself do that in my family. But I also knew that I also needed to do that for myself. And not just in work and in other spaces, but also create a space that allows me to just fully live that out, right? And so I knew that I needed to do this, but I wrestled with just accepting that, because it's one thing to know what you need to do. It's another thing to actually work it out and live it out and live in the reality of whatever that truth is to you. And yeah, so I remember when I started putting out these videos on Instagram, I knew that it was always going to end up, it was going to end up and culminate in starting a podcast, but I was just like, I pushed it away. But I recently, something happened that just made me actually just realize that, okay, there's no more pushing away. There's something about, I don't know if it's a thing of age and getting older, but you just realize that there's only so much time that you can make excuses. Like, for how long are you going to make excuses about the things that you know you should? At some point, you need to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, I'm the person that I say that I am. And I wanted to stop being a hypocrite. I wanted to stop being that person that would always tell everyone else what their potential is, what they can do, and deprive myself of doing and living in that, right? And some people might watch this and think like, oh, okay, it's all of this about the podcast. But to be honest, like, I'm just sharing the journey in general, not just about this podcast that you're watching right now, but that the journey that I'm on in my life right now, and not just starting from today, of course, but then for the last couple of years, culminating to this very moment that you're watching me right now, has been a journey of unfurling, a journey of unearthing what is within me, what has always been within me from the start, what God has put inside of me, just allowing everything to come out. I want to live this world empty. I want to live this world knowing that every idea, every thought, every dream, every promise, everything that I had in me, I poured it out. I poured it out for myself, and I poured it out for the next person that would witness my outpour and see and believe in what they carry too, right? And I think that's what it's all about. In our own journey, we allow ourselves to live out the gifts, the ideas, the hopes, the dreams that we carry. We allow ourselves to live it out and pour it out. And as we pour it out, as we share, other people are also believing that, okay, wait, I can actually do that too. Because there are people who I've watched and witnessed, and they did that for me too. And so I want to be, in my own little way, be that for another person, right? And so that is why I started to be seen. Why did I say that, it's a space where stories become mirrors and conversation becomes a way home to yourself? Because it's about you. You that is listening to this right now. It's about you. I'm not necessarily doing this for myself. There's a part of it that is for myself, if I'm being honest, because it's also about me living in my light, right? And fully, fully, fully owning it. But it's also a part of it that it's also a burden that when you talk about light, light is not just shining for you, for itself. Light is shining for the world. Light is shining for the people in the room to be able to be illuminated. And so not just me, but I feel like we are all lights and we are all called to shine what that looks like. And that means that the more people that are shining their lights, the brighter the world is. And that is the premise of To Be Seen, right? I want this platform to be a space where people's stories, people's honest stories, people's raw stories, people's progress stories, right, allow you to come into your own light, that you may see your own lights by seeing another person, right? There's something that I love so much. Like, in fact, that was one of the things, the name To Be Seen, there's so many different confirmations that I had to even name this podcast To Be Seen. For one, all through my life, like whether it's friends or colleagues, like, or people that maybe I have in one way or the other, supported, people have said so many times, like, wow, Kamsi, like, I feel like you really see me. You make me feel so seen. And I think that is one of the most highest praises or the best kinds of compliments, when someone tells you that you make them feel seen. And I know people who have witnessed, who have experienced, who have also made me feel seen. And by feeling seen, made me feel like I matter, make me feel like I'm understood, I'm known, make me feel like I'm not weird for thinking like this, or I'm not strange for being this way, or I'm not bad for struggling in this particular thing, right? And you know how you meet some people, then you just hear them very, very, very like boldly living out their own story that makes you want to boldly live out yours as well. That is something that people have told me in my life, right? And just like, oh, you make me feel seen. I feel very seen by you, and I think that's so beautiful. And it's something that I realize that it's not just a compliment, but it's something about me. And I'm starting to own that a bit. That is something that you do as well. You're someone that you're able to create space for people to see themselves. And so it's sometimes you might see it in my bio, like, sharing stories that help you see yourself. Because at the end of the day, like I said, it's about you. It's about you, whoever is listening or watching. This space is for you. Even when we bring guests on, even when, we'll have guest episodes, we'll have solo episodes. At the end of the day, you might be hearing someone else's story, right? But that person's story is for you to reflect on your own story, reflect on your own becoming, reflect on your own journey. That is the purpose. And through someone else's language, someone else's stories, through conversations, hopefully, you find language for your own becoming. That is my hope. That is my hope that this space allows you to have. My hope is that through other people's stories, you would find language for your own. You would feel seen. You will feel known. You will feel heard. You will feel believed in. Right? And that is why. And I wrestled with doing this, like I said, but as I'm sitting down here, talking in front of this mic, in front of this camera, I feel so certain that I should be doing this, and I should be doing this right now. And it's funny because if I did this maybe a year ago, life is so funny because I feel like that wouldn't have even been the right time. I think where I am at with my journey, in my becoming, in my self, I'm able to be grounded enough for this podcast. I'm able to and also it's funny because another thing I've been learning a lot is to decouple myself from the titles that I have, right? Oh, I'm a CEO. Oh, I'm a, this, I'm a that. Oh, I'm a this, I'm a speaker. Or like all of those things and even accomplishments, they are good things, right? But it's so important that in the titles, in the labels, in the things that we do not lose the essence of who we are. And so I feel like just even me deciding to do this is me taking ownership of my own journey, of who I know I am, of my own voice, of my own story, right? And not allowing the life that I have chosen for myself, even if it's a good life, to make me forget who I am and who I've always been, who that 6-year-old girl, who that 6-year-old Kamsi was, right? And I hope that in this space, I hope that as we have conversations, as we witness other people's conversations and stories, I hope that you also are reminded of who you are, who you really are, and not what someone has told you, even well-meaning people, but who you really are, right? So yeah, that's what To Be Seen is about. That is why we're here. And even the choice of guests you're gonna see, it's not about just finding, oh, let me just bring a bunch of celebrities and all of that. A lot of people that I'm gonna bring here are not even people that are necessarily popular, right? I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that. I would bring people that are popular when I do, right? But even when I do bring celebrities, it's not going to be because of their celebrity. It's going to be because of the stories that they carry. It's going to be because of who they are. It's going to be because of the light that I have seen emanating from them. Honestly, I if I wanted to have a celebrity podcast, I would have said that. Like, this is a celebrity podcast. I'm going to bring the thought leaders, all of this, that. And I think that there's space for that, and I think that there are platforms for that. I think that is necessary, But and I'm not going to say that you're not going to learn from people who might have a different, scope of experience from you. You are from this podcast, but it's not going to be about me coming to you and being like, this person has it all figured out. I have it all figured out. Now learn from us. Now look at us and learn from our footprints. That's not what To Be Seen is about. To Be Seen means that we are allowing people to see our awkward journey, sometimes awkward, sometimes some of the conversations, that person is in the middle of their own story and it's not necessarily clear what the next chapter looks like. But then we're making space for that. Someone is going through a hard, difficult process of healing, and they're figuring out the tools that they need to be able to go through that. We're making space for that. Somebody is in a place in their life where they feel like, oh my gosh, I finally figured out what it means to love myself, and I didn't love myself before. We're making space for that, right? Somebody is even very, very successful, but they're coming to learn or coming to terms with the fact that their success is costing them maybe their own personal fulfillment. We're making space for that. Or someone is just very happy and just has, no single issues or problems at all. And they're sharing the things that have helped them to be in that mental space. We're making space for that. And so To Be Seen, I'm not going to say that we're going to be talking only about, this or this. You're going to see different shades of different stories. You're going to see stories of becoming, stories of faith, stories of identity, of confidence, of beauty, of pain, of loss, of finding oneself. But one thing I'm certain is that you are going to see yourself. You're going to see yourself through these stories. You might not always be able to relate or resonate with everything that you see here, but you're going to see yourself. And I am also going to see myself because I don't exempt myself from this journey. This is also a journey that is going to allow me to even unfurl who I am. because I'm definitely very much in my own becoming, phase and becoming journey. And I don't think that ever ends for anyone. And so to be seen is that space for our becoming, that space for witnessing our becoming, right? And through every episode, through people's stories and ideas and lives, you are going to be invited to look within and see yours, right? Every single episode is going to end with a journal prompt that I actually want you guys to take out, whether your notepad or a pen and paper, and actually write down. Because what I want and what I hope for is that as you journey through this journey, as you go on this journey with me, you come to learn things about yourself more. You come to become more self-aware, more self-confident, more self-assured, less alone. You feel less weird. You feel less strange. Yeah, that is what To Be Seen is about. And that is what I hope this space provides for you. And I hope that my running for not even just years, but for most of my life, this is going to feel like a full circle moment where I come back home to myself, right? So guys, I'm very excited for this journey, and I hope that you come on this journey with me. In subsequent episodes, you're going to learn more about me, because you might be looking at my face for the first time and you're like, okay, cool story, girl, but who are you? I have no idea who you are. And that's fine. I mean, you don't understand a human being in one day. So I think there's going to be a story of us getting to know ourselves. Not just you getting to know me, but also me getting to know you, because I hope that we're going to have conversations, we're going to be able to interact, share, and yeah, I'm so excited. And to be very honest with you, when I started recording this, I was so nervous. I was like, what am I going to say? I didn't plan anything to say. I was like, I'm just going to speak from the heart. But now I just feel like it feels like an exhale. Like, yes, I'm doing this. I'm not running away. I'm not hiding. I'm allowing myself to be seen. So, thank you guys. See you soon in my next episode.